morning, ladies and gentlemen. It really feels nice, right? And there is such a video of this kind and they welcome you. There's a bit of an award function or something. But thank you so much. Thanks ICT Academy for inviting me here. And it's lovely to be here in Guwahati and look at all these bright faces, though towards the end it is not so bright, it is very dark. I want some light here also, please. And it's doubly or even more a pleasure to be here because as Shivakumar and Anbu and others know, I've been associated with this institution for many years. And during the formation of this institution, if somebody had told that in 2019 this is how ICT Academy will look like, none of us then would have believed. Big round of applause for what ICT Academy has achieved over a period of time, including a Niti Aayog that says this is a model institution for employability and related areas. So I think in the right space, for all the right reasons. I'm not an academician, I'm a management consultant by profession, but I head the education skill development vertical, been working with academicians all along. So I developed that habit of carrying notes. So I'm also going to carry notes with me like some of my illustrious speakers did before, and I have my own notes and I want to speak some of my thoughts. I'm going to do this in two parts. I have we as professionals have a very unique advantage, what I call as a ringside view of what things are happening. We never get into it so that you don't get into the vagaries of things affecting you. At the same time, we are not far away. We have a ringside view, and in many sense, we are able to give a perspective that is useful for somebody who's inside. So, I'm going to speak part of my few minutes, about 20 minutes or so that I have, on what's happening on the industry side. And I'm also going to use some of the experience that we had, or I had with these institutions to say, what does it mean for academic institutions? And what better place to say when we have the high priests of technical education from AICT here. So this is a wonderful platform, so I'm going to start by saying, why is it that we are having so much concern? The very idea of future of work, future of jobs, future of workplace, what's going to happen to my job? Or in the future, what's the kind of employment that will happen? Why are we having this kind of dilemma? Which perhaps we didn't have 10 years before, 20 years before. And when the so-called the third revolution happened, also there was a concern, but not at this level. I remember in the early 90s, when I was getting into industry, there was this big buzz, computers have come here to steal jobs away. It didn't happen. Having said that, the level of, I would call, tension that is prevailing now in terms of what will happen to my job and what's the future of jobs is high, and why is that? And I'm going to base a lot on the World Economic Forum, where there was a lot of think tanks who came and discussed about this, and eventually a report also got released. What are the drivers of change? Why is it that Industry 4.0 and what is happening now, creating this amount of buzz that didn't happen before? And the reasons are many. One, and I'm going to read as to pointers that perhaps is pushing this change. The first one, which we see happening so subtly that we don't even feel that it is happening, is the mobile internet that is happening. It has significantly changed many things that we don't even realize. Whatever we've been doing in 2000, even as late as 2000, we don't even do now because we have a device, and the device had connectivity which didn't ever exist before. I also happen to spend a lot of time in Kolkata and lead the office there, and ITC being one of the leading companies there came up with this big initiative once upon a time which was connecting the rural areas, and spent a whole lot of stuff on that. Disrupted by just the mobile internet coming to villages. Nobody needed those things that they had built so painstakingly over so many years. So mobile internet and the ubiquitous high speed availability of mobile internet is one. Second, what we call as artificial intelligence. In most of what we do now, there is some intelligence that has crept in, which was not there before. Today's car, I was talking to Lieutenant Colonel in the morning, today's car is 70% non-moving part. I'm an electronics engineer, and my colleagues who are from mechanical engineering will be surprised when I say an automobile has 70% non-moving parts, and that is the reality. Why? Because it's occupied by the intelligence that a car has. The car, today, any of your car, if you had bought it in the past 1-2 years, can give you an accurate information of what all you've been doing with the car. An entire history is stored in a chip that's somewhere beneath the steering wheel. And the mechanic, all he needs to do is just plug it on, and he can tell you exactly how your tire is performing, or your engine, or your clutch plate, and other things, because there is intelligence built in. So artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, machine learning, rapid, whatever name you call it, this is the second trend. The third one that is affecting is what is generally called as big data, analytics. So data was available all along. It's not as if data were not there. But the availability of data, thanks to technology, information, digital age, is so much that we are generating in the past 2 years an amount of data that was there in the universe till then. The sheer data that we are producing now is so exponential that we can't even imagine the kind of data that we'll have later. What we are not doing now is analytics part. So soon what's going to happen? The data analytics part is going to literally change. There are going to be magicians who are going to predict and also kind of tell you things that based on the data and performance and other things that you had. So data analytics is going to change in a big way. The other one that they also predicted is cloud computing, where again another magic. In one of the TED Talks I saw how without a device, without anything, somebody had access to so much data, it was there literally up in the air. So you don't need to invest heavily on all your devices and other things, because cloud computing and the extent of computing that it can do in unimaginable ways is growing. The fifth trend is what is the move towards greener global economy. Sir mentioned about the various other things that are happening on the environment, on the sustainable development goals and other stuff. This is going to be a trend that is going to define how businesses are going to operate, and hence what is the kind of roles that they are going to look at. So what does that mean to us? And why is it important? Because the accelerated adoption of this is what is troubling us. All these things, if they happen outside us, if you are watching a television, a science fiction movie where it is happening, doesn't matter. But what's happening is it's creeping into our daily life, it's creeping into our work life. Whatever we do today, these adoption of these things is happening in a very big way. So hence, how is this going to impact the future workforce or the future workplace? The first one that's being talked about a lot is the interface with what is called as a machine or a robot. You don't even realize how it is happening. So, how many of you here have do banking? Just raise your hand so that I don't. I was told Northeast is not bank, but I didn't know it was not bank so much. Like I only see some. You don't bank at all, is it? You don't have savings bank account? How many of you have savings bank account here? Anbu, you should have had a stronger coffee, I guess. Okay. So banking now, once upon a time, the biggest job in a bank was a branch. How many of you have visited a bank branch in the past 5 years? So I'm happy to see there are so many people who have even visited a branch. In a metro city like Chennai or a Kolkata or a Delhi, if you ask, I'll hardly see hands coming up because people have forgotten something called a branch. I have a 7-year-old daughter who said, what is a branch and why do people go there? The new generation is not even going to know something called a branch existed because everything is happening online. And now, how does it affect us from a job perspective? Earlier, there used to be people who were processing a lot. Banking is all about credit appraisal, banking is all about identifying whom to lend, collecting, all these things are done by people. There was a huge department in every bank, and that constituted the largest workforce, now taken over by robots. Bots do all the calculations for you. Your creditworthiness is determined by a bunch of machines. And when you say bots, it's not as if they're going to have, like in science fiction movies, with 2 hands and 2 legs and other things. It's a software program. Bots and machines are changing a lot, and our ability to work with them is going to be a driver for the future workforce. How are you going to work with this ubiquitous bots or humanoids or non-humanoids, anything that is a machine, how are we going to get the maximum efficiency about these machines which are working for us? It's going to determine the future workforce. And there are also multiple ways in which this happens, and this enhances in a big way. Recently, we did a project, and as a part of the project, we had to give a report on how the project was progressing. And the project was happening in a 200-acre land. It was building a university, incidentally. And earlier, when I say earlier, even 3-4 years back, we used to send people to take notes from various different departments, how is construction happening, how is whatever happening, how is stitched together. Now there was a drone that took exactly 20 minutes just to fly all around the place, took pictures of it, stitched them together, and within half an hour we had almost a real-time idea of how the project is progressing. Now these kind of drones are used in mines, these kinds of drones are used in alternate energy towers, various other unimaginable ways how machines can replace jobs that usually were taking a lot of time, were complex, arduous, dangerous, and all those things. So how do you work with these people? And also, this is on the technology side. On the non-technology side, which is what people miss, because most of what you read talks about how technology is changing your jobs. But there is a non-technology side that is also changing rapidly. And Lieutenant Colonel touched about gig economy and gig workers. The trend that is happening in many organizations is, do I really need to have people on my rolls? How many permanent employees do I need? And even if I have permanent employees, do they all need to work in this office? And the increasing trend, and I'm seeing that in India, I'm not talking about something esoteric that's happening in the US or London and other places, where here they say, work out of home. And I see many people coming from Chennai with the water crisis, there are all the more reason they are saying work out of home. I can't give you water, the basic necessity, they work out of home. But that's possible today because of certain enabling factors that was not available before. Today, for most of us in the services sector, unless you are a customer-facing job, I need not even be in the workplace. Productivity enhancement has become the key for any job role that you take and not doing the job. The jobs are either done by a machine or it is automated and it's already happening. How do you enhance productivity? So most of the job roles are about how do you enhance productivity. And also in terms of how do you be flexible in terms of your workplace. If you are doing a particular job role today, in the past, that is continuing even today, I will kind of excel in that and then I'll move up in that particular profession. I become whatever, manager or senior manager and other things, but my job role remains the same. But what's happening today is I cannot afford to have somebody who has only one skill set. Increasingly, the labor force needs to be flexible, not just in working hours and in the workplace, but also in the job content as to what they are doing. And that's an ask that was not there before. So if you do a combination of all those things, technology is affecting your job in a big way, and an impact of it is also affecting the way how jobs are seen, conducted, trained. And this survey in the Economic Forum says 50% of the people who they surveyed, which is a big thing, have said they are not looking for full-time employees or they are looking at a change in their profile by 2022, which is not far away. 50% of them have said that. And then one of the things that they said, we might outsource some part of it. That's the gig worker that he talked about. The workers need not be always present in office doing the same work, and it is changing. And if you put some of your students or some of the younger generation to be a gig worker, maybe earning more than what you could think of, how are you going to do it? I'll come to the education training part later, but enabling regulations. Today, if you are doing a second job, then it's not done, right? I mean, you are moonlighting and you are trying to earn that extra buck and other things. So how is the civil society going to take this? How is the person going to take it? It's going to be stressful a lot. And these kind of training is required when the youngsters are there in your institutions, because there's a good chance that your kids, your students today are going to be gig workers in an economy that's going to be largely gig. Are we training them for that? And also in terms of the machine interface that I said, today the statistics says about 71% of the work that we do across industry is done by humans and 29% is done by machines. That by itself is staggering, scary. But it says by 2022, 58% will be done by humans and 42% will be done by machines, which is bad enough. By 2022, that's not too far away. Now, how are we preparing our people for an economy, for industry that's going to be largely dependent on machines? And anyway, so if you look at all these things and look at the data of how is it affecting job roles. Let me come now to industry is changing, job roles are changing, but how is it changing and how is it going to affect the availability or requirement of jobs? The good news, as this analysis went on, it's also going to create a lot of new job roles. As the old job roles are vanishing, the study extrapolates to say something like 75 million jobs are going to vanish, but 147 million new jobs are going to appear, are going to come. And some of the job roles we perhaps don't even know now. We don't even have a word for describing what is the kind of jobs that are going to come. But the fact remains, are we ready for it? So my worry is, and that's why I'm coming to education institutions, with all due respect, and don't take this as a criticism because I'm as much a part of the system, the slowest institution to react for any change that happens is education institution. Now, I challenge, and some of you are old enough to check this out, 20-25 years back, how your home looked, how your kitchen looked. I talked about banking, how they look, how your airport look, how your railway station look, and to now look at the change. Go back to your alma mater and look at what is happening in the classroom. Right? A blackboard could have become a green board, could have become a white board. But what is being taught, surprisingly and sometimes shockingly, is the same content. Here is industry that is changing every 2 years so rapidly, and if academia is going to teach something that has been there for decades, that is, today the industry says give people of tomorrow, and we are teaching of yesterday. The gap is staggering. Now, I'm coming to education institutions and skill development institutes who should be cognizant of the fact that the outside environment is changing so much and there are so many avenues that you can implement which is not happening. And I'll tell you what are some of the things that I could think of. In terms of skills, I think, and sir alluded to that, and ma'am in fact said that, teaching is not happening anymore inside, or learning is not happening in classrooms anymore like it used to happen before. And let's agree, the kind of content that a student has today, and almost at zero cost. Earlier, if you want to have content, I started my consulting way back in late 90s. And can you imagine their clients used to pay us for just getting information. Suppose you get few annual reports and do an analysis and tell them that this is how they were, they actually used to pay us. If I tell some of my younger consultants now, they laugh at me because a Google search now will give you all the data that is required. If I have not changed, I am going to be obsolete. That's what is happening to education institutions. The content is available all over, and it is available cheap and it is available faster than the teachers can access it. So trust me, your studious student is a lot more equipped than you think he or she is. And you try teaching him some textbook stuff, he is actually laughing at you. Unless we recognize that content and learning has started to happen outside. And there I would request AICTE and others to recognize this fact and acknowledge that when the credit is given to a score. Why is it credit is given only when the teaching learning happens inside the classroom? There are so many things that they learn outside. One. Second, flexibility and the restlessness of the current generation, I need not belabor that point. So if they don't want to wait for 4 years, they actually want to exit after 1 year, check out certain things and come back, we don't allow that to happen. Is there flexibility in our curriculum to have multiple entry and exit points? I was so delighted when I saw the new education policy that's actually making a mention, though unfortunately it doesn't belabor beyond that. How do you make this multiple entry exit points happen? Is there something that you can give us a certificate after 1 year? How long is it valid? How do you admit him or her back? How do you give the full degree? I don't know, but that needs to be done, otherwise we are not going to look at a future. And also, what do you teach inside? The hard facts are known, but what they are not being taught and which is affecting them a lot is something like, for example, what is your emotional quotient? You're working in an organization suddenly and you've been a techie, you've been given all those things, but suddenly you don't know how to interact with people, you don't know how to take failures. Emotional quotient is one. Sales and marketing. So the sales part of it, I mean, there is so much of sales and other things that is happening. The simple, what is going to be very traditional format of selling oneself or positioning or communicating in the right fashion needs to be taught now here because it's not happening. It used to be once upon a time happening only in the MBA schools, but not anymore. Social media. How do you handle social media? So the emotional quotient, working in a team, social media, digital aspects of it, some of these what are called as soft factors need to come inside the curriculum. Otherwise, we are not teaching them life skills in a manner of speaking. So, I mean, again, you can go on. 54% of people in the current workforce, statistics say need to be reskilled, and 35% of them significantly. So the educational institutions have a larger role to play. If I were to look at them, if I can use the word from a business perspective, they have a lot more business than the young students that you have right now. There are a whole lot of people there who need to be reskilled. Who are going to do it for them? It has to be these educational institutions will step up and make sure this 54% of who are already employed who need reskilling. 35% of them significantly. Now, how do you make sure this new age things like I talked about flexibility, and also most of the new age worker is going to be an entrepreneur by himself or herself. Do we really teach them how to be an entrepreneur? Most of the courses are technical content. For example, every single person, nowadays they start at an early age, how do you manage your finances? How do you manage your compliances? All these things are going to be important if you are going to make a successful career for these kids and not just an employment. So I don't think we need, with all due respect, Shivkumar, I don't think we need an IT company. We need to teach people how to be on their own. Teach them how they can they'll find their work. There's so much work that is happening and work will come here as well. And for example, micro entrepreneurs are happening. If it is Northeast and if it is going to be agri-produce, that is the biggest, why can't a revolution happen in that sector? Why do I need a foreign sector to come in? And this is a sector that's going to, as long as humans are available, you need these things. And how do you package it? So, if we kind of tune ourselves to do things that will be useful and tune ourselves to be something that will be, that the kids or the youngsters who go in, or the workers who are already in the industry are going to make commercial sense, then we'll be successful. So, I can go on. I'm going to conclude this by saying, are we really in the mode of making these things happen? Sir, you talked about 2 stakeholders. In my view, there are 4 to 5 stakeholders in every education institution. And all these 5-6 stakeholders should be cognizant of it. First, is obviously your parent, student who's going to come and teach, and they are already asking for it. In my view, the second and the most important stakeholder is the teacher. How much are we getting the teacher to be aligned to these things? And that's where ICT Academy kind of organizations can play a big role. How are we making sure the teachers, because unless they change, unless they adopt to these things, not going to happen. Third is the industry. Industry definitely is playing a role, only I wish they play a larger role. And it is a fallacy to say that people should go out from the institution, be it students, or even faculty to industry to gain that experience. Why not get the industry into the academia? The boundaries are blurring. If I can have consulting projects that can happen here, it can have laboratories more on the engineering side that can happen in the institution. And if I can have people from the industry come as adjunct faculty into my academic institution, that's good. Perhaps industry, and I represent industry there, is struggling to find how do I accommodate academicians in my life. Why can't it happen the other way where it happens? So some of those things, that's a third stakeholder. The fourth important stakeholder is the regulator. And I have an appeal for the regulator also to look at it differently, because at some level the flexibility needs to start there. 3 years is too long, sir. If 3 years is what, and even if all these institutions comply to a 3-year framework of changing curriculum, the world has changed. Suppose I change the curriculum now and only 2022 I look at the change. Look at what all I said. If they have happened, you missed the bus. So I would think the regulator also should be more flexible in terms of labor law, many of those, not just the academic regulator, but the regulator is the fourth stakeholder who influence the education institution, who in my view should change. And the fifth, that's why I said 4 or 5, fifth is we already have enough universities. We are the third largest in the world. We are also doing a very interesting project for MHRD on Study in India program, where we are now saying, we have so many institutions, why don't we invite people from other countries to come here? So, having said that, those corporates, those entrepreneurs who want to start a new institution, it could be a skill development institute, it could be a college affiliated, which is still prevalent here, or a university. How do you influence them to start these new age things? More often than not, these new institutions bring in those practices rather than work towards. So these 5 stakeholders, in my view, should be cognizant of these models and move away from this, what I call as action and reaction mode, to an interaction mode, where we get all these stakeholders in one place, look at what are all the things that are affecting the industry, what are changing, and the seeds, the green shoots of change are already visible, and we make sure that our institution adapts to it and follow something that's going to be useful for the workforce of tomorrow. So I'll stop here. Thank you so much, and I'm happy to have any questions if it needs. Oh, that's not the format. We'll have it later.